Good morning, everyone. It is Saturday morning. Happy Saturday. Happy walk and talk. How's everybody doing this morning?
Super.
Doing great.
All right. Woohoo. All right. Well, we're going to jump right into it. We've got a lot of things going on here today. And you know how it always is. We just kind of roll with it. And we always enjoy starting with Carol to kick us off. And Carol, this is a first. I don't know if you've got a rare rain. What is that you got going
that's
there?
what we got. It is miserable. I can't show you any sunny weather today. There's not it's like totally gray. It is drizzling. And I'm out walking with my umbrella and my jacket, which I hardly ever wear. And but you know what? You look at, wow, the power of walking. And I was just reading an article just the other day about anti-aging and walking and how that's one of the best things you can do to ward off aging or to age gracefully and healthily. And I thought, well, that's part of the HealthPointe program. And I could walk around my house, except I don't have stairs and it's kind of boring. I love our house, but it's boring to walk in. So I thought, well, yeah, I'm going to come out. And so here I am, and it's kind of drizzling, but I'm out doing my walk and feeling great. And reminding myself why I'm doing it. And of course, it's like 67 degrees out, so it's not like, 30 or anything. But it just reminds me that when I do this today, I'm going to feel better tomorrow and the next day and 5 years from now. And so in anything in the HealthPointe program, we have choices. We choose to do this, or we choose to do that. And we can choose to stay in bed, or we can choose to get out and do a walk. Not going to make any difference that day, but I'll tell you, it'll make a ton of difference in the future. And as we're in the holiday season now, and we've got a lot of interesting food before us, it makes me realize how much I've lost a taste for that type of food. And as beautiful as it is, I put a dinner party on last night myself, and how uninteresting the desserts were. Beautiful, but uninteresting. And I was talking with one of our couples that was over, and she's going to be starting the program in January. Very excited about it. And we were talking, and as I was listening to her and hearing about her different ailments and thinking to myself, wow, if she could take off 50 or 75 pounds, what a huge difference that's going to make in her health. So I'm very excited about getting her started, and maybe even two of her friends, because it's just such a wonderful program. And it makes me think of, as I was putting things out, we just don't eat bread much. And if we do, it's usually Ezekiel, because that's kind of bread we like. And we eat it very seldom anyway. But I was putting rolls out, and this was from a Publix, which is a very well-known store in Florida, and beautiful bakery department. But I was reading, the first time I've ever seen it, it said bioengineered ingredients. And I thought, whoa, what is this? And we were talking a few weeks ago about fruits and vegetables with a number 3 in front of them on the label. And those are a new bioengineered spray that they put on the foods. So my message today would be, keep your choices simple. Look at the ingredients and look at any interesting labeling, because new labelings are coming to foods. And obviously I didn't eat any of the rolls, nor what anyway, but it's very interesting what's happening with food. And I think we have to be more diligent now than ever. And what I love about the HealthPointe program is your food's so basic. You can fall in love with simple stuff, and that's mostly natural. So it doesn't have a bunch of things you can't pronounce on it. And it's simple. It's a simple, simple program to follow and to stay with. I mean, like you, Eric, we've been, oh gosh, we lost weight years ago. And we don't have a stringent eating program, but it's a healthy eating program. And it's one that we truly enjoy. And so what I love about this program is it's not only a fabulous program to lose weight, but more importantly, to have a healthy lifestyle after that. And boy, will that make a difference in your future years. So that was my little message today as I'm walking in the rain. Back to you, Eric.
Well, that's great, Carol. And I got to tell you, I don't know how everybody else feels, but I'm kind of like have this strange, like, I feel good that you're in the rain because I don't know, it's just
Masochist.
I know it. I'm sorry. It's just, I know you get to enjoy just a beautiful Sarasota weather, you and Hank do, but for those of us that are in different parts of the country, especially Michigan, which you and Hank know so well,
Yeah.
I'll just speak for myself and say, God darn it, it was getting kind of tired of seeing blue skies and sunshine every time you're on the Saturday morning walk and talk. So it's great to kind of see you out there in a little bit of misery like those of us in other regions of the country.
Yes, welcome to our world.
Well, I ain't sitting around long.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, I know probably within a handful of hours, you're probably going to be back to the great stuff. But no, that is really great stuff. That reflecting back on that segment that you did a number of weeks ago about food labels and some of the codes that are in there, that was a really, really great segment. For those of you that might be viewing this or tuning in, or maybe watching this on our YouTube, there you can just go back to a past episode, look in the titles. You'll see the episode where Carol did, I think both you and Hank did a bit of a segment on, the food labeling. We're used to looking on there for the basic ingredients. We're looking for, macronutrients and stuff like that. And that's, for a lot of us, new territory until we started the HealthPointe program. But then there's this other element of the food labels that you educated us on that was very, very interesting. So what you're speaking about on this morning segment, Carol, did I understand correctly that this was specifically on a type of like an Ezekiel bread, which is more of a lower glycemic, healthier choice in terms of a bread, but that you saw actually on that food choice as well, that it had kind of, okay.
No, I am sorry. I didn't make myself clear. No, I said what I meant to say was that typically we choose Ezekiel bread just because it is a high level bread. It's grain sprouted, and so it's a healthy bread. So typically, if we're eating eggs, sometime for a meal, we might have a piece of bread with a grass-fed butter on it, and that'll just kind of complete that meal. But what I bought yesterday for the company was these, they call them water rolls. And they were kind of a nice in-between thing. And I thought, well, if they were made from scratch by Publix, and not to downgrade Publix because I love the store. But when I got home and I saw bioengineered ingredients, I had never seen that before. And so I want to caution people, read your labels, especially on baked goods, but even fruits and vegetables anymore. Look at your labels. Make sure, if you can, get a 9 in front of them, a 5-digit with the number 9 as the first digit. That means it's organic. The second one would be just 4 digits, and that means it's kind of sprayed with this sprays that have been around for a long time. But now this 3 that's on the front of a 5-digit label is new kinds of sprays they're using, and they're not good. So even on your fruits and vegetables, if there's a label on it, read it and try to buy organic as much as you can. There's a ton of organic out there if you just place yourself in the right stores. So,
Yes.
yeah.
Well, that's great information. I'm glad that we kind of went a little bit deeper on that because it opened up kind of a review of some of the food labeling that you spoke of before. And yeah, I mean, in a nutshell, again, like you mentioned at the start of your segment, Carol, what's so wonderful about the HealthPointe program is that it's just, it's basic whole foods. And, in a basic, method, you can basically just stick to those food choices that are in the HealthPointe program. And in large part, you're going to stay away from some of these sketchy ingredients and sprays and products and stuff like that. Shopping the outer aisles of the grocery store, as we talk about, limiting your highly processed foods, your high glycemic foods and stuff like that. So that's absolutely terrific. And then also you were talking about just doing your walking every day. And it just made me think of a book that we hear time and time again, at least I do, with some of the other HealthPointe coaches and facilitators. And it made me think of the book Slight Edge. And I know, Carol, you and Hank are very familiar with that. And just how those small incremental changes done consistently, often day after day after day, can result in a massive difference 5 years, 10 years, 20 years down the line. And that's what you were kind of speaking of, huh?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I started power walking when our children were little. Well, now we have not only grown children, but we have grown grandchildren and we have a new great grandson. And I'm still power walking and it still feels great. I still love it. It makes it very easy to keep your weight within that, 2 to 5 pound range, up, down, within that little circle of numbers that's right for you. And it becomes, as Kathy Munoz always says, it becomes who you are. And I just love it. It flushes out the mental toxins. It gives me a chance to listen to something on a podcast without interruptions. It gets me outdoors. And I realize that's not always possible, but you can have that same experience on the treadmill with a little video in front of you. I mean, I've certainly done that. I mean, we did that for many years when we lived up in Michigan. So, but yeah, it just becomes who you are.
Yep, absolutely. Definitely. In fact, I did that this morning being in Michigan. So yes, did that. And it's great. You can get some learning done, get some walking done and stuff like that. So that is terrific. Well, thank you so much, Carol. We're going to continue around the horn and just to kind of tee people up that may want to speak, may not want to speak. And this time I actually wrote it down. So sometimes I speak it and then I forget the order that I said, but I'm going to go here in a moment to Bruce and Eileen. I know you guys are often tight on your schedule. So we'll go to you if you care to speak, and then to Marilyn if you care to speak, and then to Kathy and Larry, and then Jamie, I saw you come into the room. I'll come to you. And guys, we're going to be doing a bit of a, I kind of fun labeled it a science corner. Jamie is someone, I'll introduce her and let her speak for her own journey in terms of health and something called LADA. But for now, let's circle back. Eileen, I see your camera on and you are unmuted. And there's Bruce too. Good morning. How are you?
Great. Awesome. So I wanted to share, I hit 45 pounds today. Woohoo!
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm in the third, what do you call it? The third
cycle.
I'm in the third cycle. We're eating more food and I still lost weight, even though I'm eating so much. So,
oh my God.
Yeah, so that's awesome. I wanted to also share that we went camping last week and with a whole group of friends. And we had one single person who was going to cook with us, she ditched us, wasn't junky enough. Yeah, it was really sad because she has diabetes and takes medication, and she just didn't want to eat our way at all. And we told her she could add mashed potatoes or whatever she wanted, but after 2 meals, she's like, now I'm eating with the junky people. But I lost 1.5 pounds during camping. So
Wow.
yeah, and we're happy. I mean, this is what I wanted to say, that my big problem is we do a lot. That's not a problem, but we're very social and have friends and blah, blah, blah. That's always been a problem for me with food. And now it's not. We just eat healthy food, make sure we have good food. Just, it's easy to find good food. And so instead of eating s'mores, which that one was a little tough for me, we went to the butcher. There was a local butcher by the campground, and we got filet mignon and had a treat for us as our,
Ooh.
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I will be on your camping trip instead of others. I tell you, I like it. I like it a lot.
Well, they also sold these little ones, so we didn't have to go overboard. It was just little ones. And during the s'mores, I had to look at those s'mores everybody was eating, and I'm like, I pictured those marshmallows in my blood clogging. And that was helpful because, you know, it can get a little hard to give up all your junk all the time, but it was okay. It was good. It was good.
That is great. And congratulations. I knew that you guys had gone camping. I know Carol had mentioned that and so forth. And let me just say this, just in the time that I've seen you guys on the walk and talks, I can clearly see it in your faces. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
You know, wow, that is really, really remarkable. And we often talk with people, even at the 20-pound mark, is where I tell them, hey, just so you're not flat-footed, at around 20 pounds is when it usually starts showing in your face, where people will say, you know, you look a little different. You know, are you doing something? You look healthier. You know, and that's where I encourage people, hey, don't get caught flat-footed. They might be just casually giving a compliment, but you know, 1 out of 3 Americans are probably supremely interested in how, and they would like more information. So at what'd you say, 45 down now?
45, yeah.
Wow, that's fantastic. Congratulations. And Bruce, you're I know, I don't know how many belt loops you're down, but you were into new clothes for your gatherings and so forth.
Yeah. So I've actually switched to another belt, and I dropped another loop there. So but for me, into the 160s, and my goal is 160. So I don't have too much further to go. I also had or have a precancerous condition, Barrett's esophagus. And I called my doctor the other day and I asked him if I had to take 2 omeprazole a day. And he said, I'll be on it for the rest of my life. Well, I gave him my weight and everything, and he said I could drop to 1 a day. And I'm hoping that at some point I may be able to get off the medicine.
Wow.
I really hope so.
Wow.
I didn't even know about that.
That is.
He had to take 2 a day because he wasn't eating properly and was still getting heartburn. Well, he doesn't get any heartburn now, of course.
Right.
Mhm.
Oh my gosh, that is so huge. Yeah, oh my gosh, you know, we could do a whole segment. We could do the rest of the hour on that segment alone.
Yeah.
Emily and I were talking earlier today, this morning, and we were just talking about, you know, HealthPointe, as we joke sometimes, it's not called, you know, diet point. It's not called type 2 diabetes point. It's called health. And at the end of the day, whether someone has no existing medical conditions or they do have existing medical conditions, you know, again, and you've done this, you worked in concert with your doctor, with your professional to guide you on decisions and so forth. But fundamentally, there is no harm in getting better nutrition, better macronutrient choices, better micronutrient choices, better lifestyle choices as far as movement and hydration. And so whether that's some precancerous conditions like you have, Bruce, I know Marilyn will be going to you. You speak openly about your cancer diagnosis situation there. When it comes to, so many things that can be recommended in the medical system due to a condition that often have a long list of possible side effects. But god darn it, when it comes to just tremendous micronutrient supplementation and good, healthy macronutrient choices, there's no downside to that, right? It's just wonderful. Yeah.
We're so
And
happy. I can't even tell you, so happy.
Well, that is great. And well, and you've got the best of the best out there in terms of coaching. I mean, look at her out there with her umbrella walking in the rain. So
I have to brag on Bruce and Eileen and many of the others that are on the call today. Accountability is key in this business. And from day one, once they made a decision, I've never, ever had to bug them about getting their little, they just screen shoot. We do it very basic. They screen shoot what they ate the day before, and they screen shoot their new weight as it relates to, the other weight that they've been. And they just do it every single day. I just always know I'm going to get one from Bruce and one from Eileen. And for those of you that are new on the program or looking at the program, boy, that is one of the most important factors in this program, is to be accountable to your coach every day, because let me tell you, it'll make the job a lot easier for you in making those new habits. So.
For sure. Absolutely. And, I'm accountable to Carol every morning. Carol, whether she likes it or not, and I kid because I know you do like it, Carol, but whether she likes it or not. And guys, I've been doing this for quite a while. Emily and I first did the program 2017. But to this day, I use my alarm on my phone to remind me to check in with Carol. I do not leave it to chance, because I tell people to check in with me at any time. I don't care if they arrive, wake up at 5 a.m. or 9 a.m. My phone is on silent, so just check in when it's convenient. But I just, long before I think I asked Carol, I just, out of respect for her morning and so forth, I set up for a particular time when I knew that she would probably be up and about. And I set that on my phone. And I would say 95% of the time, I never, quote unquote, need it. But we all have those mornings where it kind of goes off the rails and suddenly your routine is totally disrupted. And then I'm buzzing around and my alarm goes off and I look down, it says, check in with Carol. I go, aha, good thing I've got that alarm. And I just hit it real quick. Sometimes I'm driving, so I just do a voice memo. So it's safe. I can just press a button and leave a voice memo. But whether she likes it or not, she's getting a check-in from me. And, these days it's not so much about, hey, how's my blood sugar? How's my weight? Although sometimes we have those discussions, it's more, business type of discussions and so forth. But guys, and I think Bruce and Eileen, you can attest to this. Everybody else can attest to this. That is not a burden for me. I enjoy and appreciate the friendship, the mentorship, the wisdom, the bouncing back and forth on things. It's a privilege, not a burden at all. So thank you for sure. Yes, Eileen, and you need to unmute.
I think coach is the best thing ever, because that's actually why I decided to do it, because you can do other programs and you're on your own. You're just accountable to yourself. And that at first is, not that easy. You don't have a lot of willpower necessarily, but anyway, having the coach is wonderful. I love it.
Yeah.
It's wonderful.
It is. It's absolutely, time and time again, we speak to where it's, in my opinion, it's the most important part of the overall psychological behavior change type of a thing. And certainly, with folks that I help, I'm very clear from the beginning, it's a non-negotiable. I've had numerous people that before, even if they said, yeah, I want to get started, there was something in our discussion that made me suspect on whether or not they would do that. And I said, you know what we're going to do first is we're going to do X amount of days with you just checking in with me in the morning, because I have no interest in, and you have no interest in starting this program if you're just setting yourself up out of the gate for failure. And I said, so let's establish whether or not you will do that. It's so simple. It doesn't take discipline. It just takes a choice. It's literally, like you said, Carol, a screenshot or what have you. Every check-in, everybody has it, but it's so simple. But if you can't do that, then the chances of succeeding are low, because before getting started, you've made a choice to not have that all important lifeline. And, so yeah, so important. Well, fantastic. Thank you, Bruce and Eileen. And again, congratulations on that. Going around the horn, if you care to. I think next was Marilyn, then Kathy, then Larry, then Jamie. So Marilyn, I will wait and see if you unmute. I know you to be in Michigan as well, and I don't know if you're out walking. And while we're waiting, and it looks like maybe she's not unmuting, but Marilyn, you have given me license to go ahead and speak on your behalf on some things. I will just brag on Marilyn. So Marilyn, again, like we mentioned earlier, she is in conjunction with all this, she's also dealing with various medications for her cancer therapy and so forth, which do affect they're designed to affect the hormones. And despite all of that, she is, well, it's really funny. You might have remembered, I think it was last week, Marilyn, you said something like, oh, I'm kind of stuck. And, many have seen that little image that I post where it says, you just keep the effort steady. You just follow the process. The results will be, if you keep that effort steady and don't react to the short-term results, just stay steady on the program day after day after day. It's physics. The results will come, but they don't always come in a straight line. They come in kind of what I call a stair step, where if you're focused on weight loss or blood sugar correction, it will plot, 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 and then sometimes it will go horizontal for a little bit. And Marilyn was at that point, but just stayed steady on things, steady on it, steady on it, steady on it. And holy cow, this week, what did you drop? Well, I'll just tell you, she's down a total of 29 pounds. Congratulations, Marilyn. That was
Yay.
as of yesterday's
Yay, way to
check-in.
go,
Woo.
Marilyn.
Yeah.
Yeah. And gosh, she
Huge.
was yeah, it's been, I'll just say, I'm not going to get real granular on the numbers here, but it was absolutely this week where one of them, she said, I had to step on the scale 3 times because I couldn't believe the number. But it just, we talk about the hypothalamus and kind of the thermostat, and if your body's been used to a certain weight, a certain health, it has sometimes an ill-informed design to keep you at that state. If you're whatever your weight is, if it's been that way for many, many years, your hypothalamus, your endocrine system is sending signals, let's keep it there, let's keep it there, let's keep it there. And, as you are going through a program like this, that needs to adjust, but sometimes it's a little bit stubborn. But in Marilyn's case, it just kind of like let loose. She stayed steady on the efforts, and then she just bam, 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 just really, really dropped. So congratulations, Marilyn. Awesome job. And if you're out walking your German short here out in the weather this morning, enjoy, but we will move on. Kathy, I know you had said that you were a little bit tied up here this morning, but I
I'm
think
good.
you're ready now. Good morning, Kathy.
Good morning.
how
How's
you
everybody
doing?
doing today?
Good,
Morning.
good. Give us a little bit of your history as it relates to
Okay.
HealthPointe. Yep.
All righty. Okay. I lost 58 pounds between the timeline of June of 2018 and December of 2018. So what, 7 months or whatever it was. So by January 2019, I was definitely down 58 pounds. I have kept it off the entire time, even through COVID. I think I might have went up maybe 10 pounds during COVID, but got back on track, got back to being able to get access to healthier food and went with it that way. Always did stay pretty much true to the program the whole time, which makes the big difference. And with always doing the walking in the water was definitely really key for me, because I hated water before I started this program. Before I started the program, I drank maybe a glass a day. That is no joke. But once I realized drinking 80 to 100 ounces of water a day, whoo, that really helps you drop.
Yeah.
Water became my friend. And then with our twist tubes, that helped water become more palatable. And then, well, the perfect water tastes really good on some. You can drink, fine, but filtered water, bottled water, but so that's kind of the story. 1 year, 260 days ago, I started trying to do 10,000 steps a day consecutively. I saw a video that David Dassa had shared with me about the benefits of 10,000 steps a day, just overall on your health. And just by doing something so simple, you can actually add years to your life. Well, I'm in my mid 50s, so okay, let's add some years to my life. So I started out trying to see if I could do it. Then it became an obsession because I wanted to see what my Fitbit was going to do after a year. The Fitbit almost died 4 days before my goal. I got an Apple Watch on backup just in case. The Fitbit managed to make it. It was the band that broke, so I had to keep it in my pocket or in my hand when I walked. So it was very difficult to get tracking of things. But anyway, did it, and it didn't do anything. It said you're on a 366-day streak, and I went, "Are you kidding me?" But I celebrated because I knew it was quite an achievement. And I said, okay, well, yeah, day 366. All right, let's go for 2 years. So today, as I said, 1 year, 260 days consecutively. And you can see I'm in Michigan. I'm walking in my house. Yeah, it's boring, but I'm still doing it.
That's what I love about you, Kathy, is that anybody that starts the program and they're like, well, how do I get the steps in? It's bad weather outside or something like that. All I have to do is give them a short segment that contains Kathy on it. And half the time you're walking, probably 90% of the time you're walking inside your home. And the other times you're walking, behind the cubicles in your office at work, and you've talked about where, as your mom was going through care and you're at the hospital, you just get up and walk the halls. It was a choice. It's who you are, and you just make it happen. And, the benefits of that slight edge habit of getting the 10,000 steps a day in. I mean, you're just an incredible example.
Well, thank you. Yes. And it hasn't always been easy. That is true. Yes. There were nights that I spent in the ER and, it was 1 o'clock in the morning and I'm like, well, I can't sleep. Who knows what the rest of the day is going to hold? I might as well just get some steps in. So I just did the little probably 10-step trek within my mom's little ER cubby because I didn't want to leave her. And, hammered out a couple thousand in a couple hours because I couldn't sleep anyway. And I knew eventually I would be able to be home in my bed and I could sleep. And so I didn't want to just sit there and do nothing and lose all those steps, because how would I get them all in later? So, but yeah, it is, as I've stated before, now it definitely is who I am. And there are days that are more challenging than others, but
Well,
it is who I am.
congratulations.
So
With
keep it going.
1 year 260, you're past the, well, roughly 2/3 or one moment here. Let me.
You're still muted, Eric. Oh.
Sorry, I'm
That's okay.
going to deal with an Alexa call that just came in. I think it's my dad. I'll be right with
Oh,
you. You just keep
no
on
problem.
continuing.
Okay, all right. So, yeah, so anyway, and another way that I get steps into being a busy mom, there's always laundry to be done. And you don't have to stand in one place and fold laundry or sit on the couch and fold laundry. You can walk around the house and fold a towel. I can get 10 steps in while I'm folding a towel. So that's just a little tip. And if you work outside the home and you need to get lunches ready, instead of grabbing 5 things out of the fridge and taking 5 steps, grab one thing at a time. You're still getting your process taken care of, and you're getting your steps in at the same time. You know, sometimes it's kind of silly, but if you still need to get them in, and that's the key. It's not, power walking is awesome. Carol is my queen. That's the next thing I'd like to try to see if I could attribute, but I don't know, power walking in the house might be really difficult. So maybe that's something I need to branch out and think about. Maybe this summer when it's nice out, getting outside. But moderate exercise is HealthPointe. Getting up and moving. You don't have to power walk, and you don't have to do all 10,000 steps in 4 hours consecutively either. You know, one other thing I do that also is very successful for me, because I work during the day, my lunch hour. I eat my lunch, and the last 40 minutes of my lunch hour, usually I'm found on our 3rd floor lobby, walking the lobby back and forth. People see me, they're like, oh, hey, getting the steps in today. Yep. You know, so talked with a new person yesterday about that. We'll see where it goes. But he's
And
like,
you,
oh yeah.
and you
Go ahead.
walk, sorry to interrupt you, you
No.
walk after you eat. Is that what I understand?
Yes.
Yeah. Which in and of itself, guys, has that benefit of, you know, your muscles are like a glucose sink, you know, particularly for those that are trying to correct, you know, like a type 2 diabetes or, you know, regulate their blood sugar. Doing that movement. Emily and I were just out to dinner with somebody the other night, and we were talking about that, about just doing a, you know, 20 minutes of moderate walking after a meal is tremendous for that effect as well. But in your case, Kathy, it's just one more strategy for getting your 10,000 in, is what I understand.
Right, exactly. So I'm getting a double benefit at the same time, basically, you know.
Wow.
And you know, so yeah, so those are some tips for people that possibly work outside the home or busy moms, and how to try to get some steps in. So that's what I've got today.
Hey, excellent. Thank you so much, Kathy. And thank you for carrying the dialogue as I dealt with the, as we say, ALE call, because I don't want to say ALEXA or it's going to turn it on right now. So we call it ALE inside here. But thank you for that. And we are going to move along. We've got Larry and then Jamie, who I'll speak with. Jamie is kind of a guest into our meeting this morning from Indiana. And then Hank, I always hope to have you on as well. So good morning, Larry. How are you this morning?
Hey, I'm doing good, Eric. Thank you for inviting me on. And good morning, everybody. Hey, you know, I was just thinking as a conversation was going on, I was thinking in coaching, no matter what thing you're coaching someone in, you have fundamentals. And so that's what we're talking about. We have a few fundamentals that we're talking about, drinking water and stuff like that. But one of the fundamentals is weighing yourself every day. You know, and even when you're not in weight loss mode, you can still weigh yourself. Sometimes, like Eric said, you know, sometimes the scale doesn't quite go down as far as you want. And so, and sometimes it goes up a little bit, but usually, as Carol had mentioned, you stay in a certain range. And that was one of the things that I was going to ask you to maybe talk about, Eric. I don't think that we have talked about it too much, but having that set point or resetting your set point. You know, I noticed with clients that I work with, and also with myself, is that sometimes when we maintain that weight, when we stay within that range, then we have a new set point, and our body is adjusting to that. You said a little bit of something about that, and so it's good to get to that point, because then you realize, as I think David said last week, you don't get rattled. You realize that, okay, yeah, my weight went up a little bit, but then you'll look at it a day or two or later or something like that, because you might have eaten something later at night. I'm just pointing the finger at myself. And then all of a sudden, then you find
Popcorn,
out,
popcorn.
then you find out, whoa, my weight went up just a little bit. But sometimes it's that late meal that you ate later on, at night to kind of boost it up. But then when you look at it the next time, then it's gone back down within your little range. So, if you can mention something about the set point. And then the last thing I'll say before I get off is that, I had clients, think of like Eileen was saying, that what they liked about the program is not that you try to lose a whole bunch of weight at once, but you lose a little bit at a time. And usually the direction is down and more towards your goal, which is usually down, right?
Right.
Okay, so that's all I have to add. Thanks a lot, Eric.
Hey, that's great, Larry. Thank you so much for that. And it's interesting. You asked to talk about that set point. I'd be happy to, because it kind of surprised me, as some of you know, and maybe from last week or otherwise. I'm actually in the heat of a 6-week cycle here myself. And that's something that I do as a facilitator. I just try once a year to do it, even if I don't want to lose weight, just to stay real, relatable, not to become a facilitator, where I'm just preaching and can't relate. So I do it. And part of that means reading the daily messages, right? We've got the daily messages that are in the HealthPointe app. And then we've got the daily messages that my assistant transcribed onto a audio format on our Voices of HealthPointe YouTube channel. And this set point, which is, if you were to ask me before kind of starting this 6-week cycle, when is it in the HealthPointe program that they talk about this set point? I would have said, well, it's as you transition, once you've met your ultimate weight goal and you're transitioning into lifetime maintenance, because we talk about 3 to 9 months to reset that and stuff like that. And that is true. But here I am 6 years later, and I learned something new. And that is, and I'll tell you, because now I can almost like recite some of these daily messages by heart. I know like chapter and verse, I'll tell you, it's on day 9. On day 9, which is not the end of a 6-week cycle, obviously, that's day 42. This is day 9. It's the first time it references this set point, Larry. And that is, just briefly, because we'll move on in the program, but for those that are on the program, just go to page 9, or I'm sorry, to day 9. And it will talk about the hypothalamus. And the hypothalamus, guys, if you just kind of look at an image of it, but it's in the kind of the base of your brain, and it's part of the, it signals the endocrine system. I mean, it regulates everything from body temperature to signaling all kinds of key hormone signals. And one of those is, again, if it says, hey, as a species, we've evolved to kind of stay stable, right? There's a principle in medicine, homeostasis, right? The body, the biology kind of likes to stay in a stable state, right? You don't want to be, 97 degrees one day and 114 another day and 212 and then 32, right? It likes to kind of stay stable, right? Your respiratory rate stable, your heart rate stable, all your amazing systems stable. And that includes weight, right, wrong, or indifferent. If you've been obese, let's just say, your body kind of has it says, hey, we've been here for 10 years. Let's stay here, because that's homeostasis. But on the other hand, if you get to a healthier weight, then it needs time to reset. And the beauty is once it resets, like Larry was referencing, is if you've gone through your lifetime maintenance phase properly, then you are going to be in this state where even when you kind of go off the rails a little bit on some food choices, you go out to eat, or you have that movie popcorn or whatever, your body wants to stay in that state of homeostasis. It wants to revert back to that set point. And if that's a healthy weight, it will revert back to that. It will drop those 2, 3, 4 pounds that you gained. So that is basically what that is about. Again, day 9 in the daily messages in the HealthPointe app is the first point that it referenced it, and that surprised me. So thank you for teeing that up, Larry. That's awesome.
Thanks.
So you bet. Next, we are going to go to Jamie. And Jamie, I'm going to introduce you a little bit here, just kind of give people context. And if you care to go on camera, you're welcome to go on camera.
Am I not on?
You're not on camera right now. No.
Well,
So if you're on a mobile phone, you'll just want to tap your screen with your finger. It'll probably show a camera. And then you just tap on that. And while you're figuring that out, I'll give folks a little bit of context. I invited Jamie on. There we go. There, well, you're there for, there you are. Okay. Good morning, Jamie. Jamie is from Indiana. Is that correct?
South Bend, Indiana, right by Notre Dame.
Right by Notre Dame. All right. And so let me just give a little bit of context for the folks, and then I'll, kind of turn it over to you. And this is kind of our science corner learning. Jamie is going to talk about something called LADA. LADA, latent autoimmune disease in adults. And so Jamie connected with me through, kind of a program, an advertising program, quite frankly, where I'm seeking to help coach people that are diabetic. And we hopped on the call and she asked me a couple of questions about things related to my filter at that time. It was kind of type 1 type of stuff. And she was asking me some questions. And guys, I'm going to be candid if I don't know something. And I think Jamie appreciated that. And I just said, those are some really good things that you're mentioning there, but that is not my domain of expertise. But if you don't mind, I'm curious and I like to learn more. Can you share more about what you're experiencing and so forth? And guys, I thought I was dealing with a diabetes PhD. I mean, a scientist. I mean, it was clear that she had to be her own advocate, as maybe she'll share. But there's a couple of reasons I asked Jamie to be on. One is since talking with her, I've had at least one other candidate that thought that they fit this LADA profile. And because I knew a little bit more, I knew to ask about like a C-peptide test. And it turns out his was fine. And I told him, I said, you're not LADA. I think you just need to make different food choices. And, so I was armed with that information. And then secondly, I circled back to Jamie on a little bit of Q&A. And again, she was just firing off some great information. I said, would you mind jumping onto our Saturday walk and talk and kind of have this discussion about LADA? So with that, Jamie, I guess, tell folks a little bit about yourself and kind of your story.
Well, I am 42 years old. I started out a little bit overweight. I was like 180, 190 pounds. So when they told me type 2 diabetic, I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. And I did all the things. I was on a GLP-1. I dropped almost 100 pounds. I didn't put carbs in my mouth unless they were green leafy vegetable carbs. I did all the things. And I got to a point where like I would eat a small bowl of cottage cheese and my blood sugar would be 250 like immediately. And I'm like, okay, this isn't working. And the doctor's like, you're type 2. And I'm like, I don't know. Well, you're not type 1, that's juvenile diabetes. And I was like, yeah, but everything I read about type 1 is what I go through every day. And so we went through that argument and it just kept getting worse and worse and worse. I begged for insulin. They wouldn't give it to me. I didn't need it. I'm overproducing insulin. I'm a type 2. So I started doing my own testing. I went and got a C-peptide test, a GAD65 test, and that is where I found the antibodies that are attacking my pancreas.
And if you don't mind sharing, what were your GAD results? Do you remember what the number?
I believe it was 185.
Wow.
165
okay.
or 185, and they're supposed to be 5. And I like to warn people because I thought I was doing an amazing job as a type 2, especially on a GLP-1. I wasn't eating enough. I got down to 110 pounds. I thought I was doing a good job though, because that's the point, right? You know, and it didn't go that way for me. So I like to let other people know, keep an eye on that. I still don't put a carb in my mouth, even on insulin. You know what I mean? I'm stuck in the type 2 mode. It's just a good way to eat. It's a good way to take care of yourself. Type 2, I think, is if that's what you've got, it's a warning. It's your body saying, hey, it's time to get this together. Let's do this, you know, and you kind of have that. Right. Wow. There's so many questions I have. And by the way, anybody that else that has any questions, just chime in and ask here. So just to give kind of a big picture here, kind of go back out to the 30,000 foot view. So we've got, in the diabetes realm, we generally speak of it in terms of two labels. We have type 2 diabetes, and we have type 1 diabetes, okay? Type 1 diabetes is typically something that afflicts children. It often happens early in age. It is an autoimmune disease. It's basically where your immune system attacks your pancreas, and we'll just say kills it, and therefore your pancreas is unable to produce insulin, which is the hormone that will work to move blood sugar, glucose out of your blood into your cells. And so often with children that get type 1 diabetes, their pancreas is no longer functional, and therefore they need an insulin injections or an insulin pump in order to facilitate the uptake of their glucose. The other category is what's called type 2, and type 2 is something that is an epidemic in America right now. Roughly 1/3 of Americans are either type 2 diabetic or pre-diabetic, and that's often a lifestyle, AKA food choice type of a thing. It is closely correlated to weight gain and obesity, and basically you're eating a tremendous amount of high glycemic food, sugar, carbs, and so forth, and your blood sugar is spiking when you eat. Your insulin is pumping out, and it's dropping your blood sugar. It's pumping back up when you eat again. It's on this up and down roller coaster. And what we learned to do in HealthPointe is to make different macro food choices, increase our steps, our water, our micronutrients, stabilize that blood sugar, bring it down to a healthy level. And along with losing weight, you have all kinds of beneficial health outcomes from that, because right now 9 out of 10 leading causes of death in America are directly attributed to dysregulated blood sugar. Now, type 2 is who we generally are working with within HealthPointe, certainly myself, okay? Somebody comes to me, type 2 or pre-diabetic or weight loss, boom, that's my region. Type 1, as I've mentioned on this program, because of the that is something where I don't coach people, okay? I'll certainly encourage them with some nutrition and stuff like that, but in terms of a specific 6-week cycle, that is something that I don't coach. Now, LADA, which is what you have, which you had to advocate for yourself. You got your own blood test. You got your C-peptide numbers. Do you recall what your C-peptide number was? It was 0.5, and it should be at least 1.1.
Right.
It goes all the way up to, I believe, at 2.6. So you should be between 1.1 and 2.6, and I'm not even on the low end of that.
Right.
This is a crazy disease. This is a crazy disease. This one's hard.
This one is hard. And again, just not to get too technical or scientific, guys, here, but just to help you understand what a C-peptide is that, for when your body produces, there's kind of a one, go ahead.
It's made at the same rate as insulin, only it's not processed in the liver, so it remains in the blood. So you can actually test how much beta cell function you have based upon C-peptide in the blood.
Well said. So it's a more of a stable marker. So if you can, and it's pretty easy to get with a standard blood test and so forth. So, if your C-peptide, like this gentleman that thought he had this issue, I asked him if he had a C-peptide number, and he did, and it was 1.44. And I said, obviously your body is producing insulin. You're fine.
But that's also a marker that you're not severely insulin resistant. Like there's people with C-peptides of like 10 and 12. It gets up there, and that's the opposite end of the spectrum, to where your cells really aren't, they're not accepting any energy. It's just kind of floating around in your blood, which is where you'll see some type 2s that really struggle. They really like they on insulin just to force it to happen because their cells are resisting it so heavily.
Correct. That's correct. It's kind of an interesting angle that, you know, a standard approach takes with, if somebody's insulin resistant, you know, it's like pump more insulin in, you know, it's the metaphor that I use is that, you know, picture like a garage door, that in a healthy state, the garage door is fully open and you've got this insulin squirting in. Picture like a standard garden hose. It's just a very healthy equation. You're squirting in some insulin inside the garage door is fully open. But then suddenly, you know, you go from a garden hose to a fire hose to 2 fire hoses to 5 fire hoses, and your garage door is like, whoa, 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 this is too much. I need to close this door down. And, you know, that door closes down to, you know, within 1 foot of the pavement, and you up it to 10 fire hoses and keep trying to force this stuff under the door. And then maybe your diagnosis is such that your doctor says, well, let's inject more insulin into you. Again, it's not addressing the root cause, but
no.
To yours is, and you're the expert in this, I'm not. Do I understand that this sometimes is referred to as like not type 1 diabetes, not type 2 diabetes, but 1.5 diabetes? Does that get called that sometimes?
It is type 1 diabetes, but it's really hard to call it that because for decades, type 1 was juvenile diabetes. There was no such thing, you know, as an adult getting it. But there has been a recent uptick with COVID, because the immuno response is usually triggered by a virus, and COVID seems to be one that triggered it for a ton of adults. So that's why I tell people, like with type 2, be aware, because I thought for a year and a half, I was like, yeah, I'm type 2, lost all the weight, did this, doing good. And then all of a sudden, boom, I couldn't do it anymore. You know,
right.
Because it takes time for your pancreas to be fully attacked and non-working. You're honeymooning and still create some insulin, enough to keep you stable until you wake up one day and you're like, I can't eat eggs.
Yeah. So it's basically, it's killing off the beta cells. Is that, yes. Okay.
And
so,
they say that it's all beta cells, but I have noticed, you know, you have the endocrine and the exocrine system. So you have alpha and beta in your pancreas. And
okay.
I noticed that I take digestive enzymes when I eat. And that seems to help me process foods better too, because the pancreas does a lot more than just insulin. So being under attack, I think they may not know this, but just from my experience, there's an attack on the entire pancreas.
Right. Wow, that's great. And I know in a moment, if Hank is available, he's spoken so wonderfully about the value of digestive enzymes and so forth. So here again, we hear another role of it. So a couple of things, and then we'll move on. By the way, this is amazing, Jamie. I know I speak for everybody that this is, I mean, it's a little bit of a deep dive on some science here, but so I want to speak to, because I reached out to you and said, this is before that other gentleman, I got his C-peptide number and was able to tell him it doesn't look like he is LADA. But that said, I believe we're going to increasingly run across more and more people that are LADA, and just like in our HealthPointe program, as I saw the trend of type 2 diabetes in America, I said, wait a second, this is a machine for helping people with type 2 diabetes. And I kind of rebranded my approach to more, yes, weight loss, of course, but more of, let me help you with your pre-diabetes, diabetes, but there likely is an increase in LADA, which is why I kind of reached out to you and said, hey, have you ever considered, being in the health and wellness business and so forth? And you said, yeah, but I'm not sure how. And trust me, I'll help you with that.
Yeah, because I've seen a lot of people struggle, and these doctors, don't get me started on the doctors. They don't test. You could be a type 2 insulin dependent for 10 years, and the whole time you're type 1 and don't know it, because that's all they do. They prescribe medicine. We don't care what you are. You need insulin or you don't need insulin. And they make a lot more money pushing type 2 diabetes medicines than the answer to a type 1. You have to learn to take insulin correctly. So there's not a lot of money in that.
Yep. That's follow the money for sure. There's a huge multifaceted industry to make a ton of money off of, sick people, and that includes type 2 diabetes. Now, also what it amounts to is that with juvenile diabetes, that's usually type 1 diabetes, that's usually relatively quick. And to kind of frame things for people, as I understand it, which again, it's a limited understanding, but in children, their immune system is developing. It's getting hit with this and that, and they come out of the womb with some basic things. But you've got to live, you've got to be exposed, you've got to, and the young body is forming this immune response, and that's why they can be a little bit more susceptible to type 1. And when it afflicts them, bam, it just their immune system goes after the pancreas, and bam. Whereas an adult has that more fully formed immune system. They've been exposed to all this, that, and the other thing. And so it is, I guess, in fairness to doctors, it's not necessarily something that they would immediately think of unless they're well informed, because they're like, hey, this person's 40. They don't fit the age profile of somebody that should have type 1 issues. And so they never test. So what would you advise to people that, like, going back in your history, if you had to do it again, would you just come out with a blood test right away, or what?
Oh, I absolutely would. And I would consistently, get that done with my yearly blood work. It's a simple test. For me, I had to do it with a lab that writes the order themselves, because my doctor was kind of a jerk. He was a jerk. You're 40 years old, So it was $40 for me to get that done.
Wow.
I don't understand why that's not a standard the minute of diagnosis for anyone, because DKA, which is diabetic ketoacidosis, it's dangerous. Sure. And if you're supposed to have insulin and you don't, your body's essentially eating itself to stay alive.
Yep.
And so there's just, it's crazy to me that those tests aren't a standard. Because I know I've found 8 people in the wild that are like, I never had 100 for a blood sugar. Yeah, I can't do it. I stay in the 200s. And I'm like, go get a C-peptide. And there's 8 of them just on the internet that I found, that they're like, oh, they think I'm God. I'm like, no. I'm not a doctor. I'm not anything. She's like, but I finally know what's wrong, and I can get an insulin pump. And I think that that's amazing. That changes their insurance, so they can get that.
Right. So you're saying that these were people that were just, on the internet that you saw, where they were having some conversations about their struggle with this, that, and the other thing. And you're like, hey, just go get a $40 C-peptide test. And they come back to you and they're like, yeah, I'm like a 0.5 or something. And you're like, boom. Is that what you're saying?
Mm-hmm. And some of them even worse than me. And it's terrible for your body. And some of them were already on insulin. They still couldn't control it because they're just on a sliding scale. There's this crazy mess of insulin that they have. They say, here you go. This is going to save your life, but also be careful because it's going to kill you. And you get to figure out how to use it because we can't tell you.
Wow. Geez, that's
they're not very savvy with the way that they do things. And even educators, because we have insurance and people sue everybody for everything. I mean, I kind of understand that they can't give anyone a direct path with type 1. Like, they send people home with their children with barely any instructions on how to use insulin. And
right.
it can be.
Yeah. Absolutely. So fortunately, now we live in an era, here we are coming into 2024 where, basically anybody that wants to get a lab test to have some of these things. I know with Emily and I, we decided on, Function Health. One of the principal people behind there is Dr. Mark Hyman. I've long studied under Mark Hyman. He's a leading, he set up the Center for Integrative Medicine at Cleveland Clinic. And, the guy is, the OG of integrative medicine. And so since he was behind that platform, that dashboard, and I think we got like 110 or 120 biomarkers. It's not $40, it's more than that, but we get 2 tests a year. And guys, nothing like being able to be your own advocate to do some of the things like Jamie is saying, where you now can, do your own research, particularly if you're symptomatic of something, but even just to understand the little tweaks and dials. I know even with Emily and I mean, our triglycerides are like phenomenal, all these things are phenomenal because we live this HealthPointe lifestyle since 2017. But there's always a little bit here and there that we can kind of do some work on. So
I never had any of that. I never had any of the cholesterol issues, blood pressure issues. I never fit the type 2. So I don't know how I was misdiagnosed.
Yeah.
It was
right. So well, this has been so great, Jamie. I can't say enough for the value that you've brought to this morning's program. Again, you're in a community here where we're constantly dealing with people at various levels of health questions, so much of it related around blood sugar. And, I think, if you polled 100 people out there, 90% of them would know, okay, there's this type 2 diabetes things, there's this type 1 diabetes things, but they have no idea about LADA. And
they have. Yeah, a lot of people don't even know type, because LADA is type 1. You just get it later in life.
True.
But I will tell people that I'm type 1 and they're like, oh, so you can't eat this stuff? And I'm like, well, I can eat whatever I want if I want to dose insulin for it, but I don't. I still stay eating like you guys eat. I'm good. 2 units of insulin is enough for me. I don't want to take 5 ever.
So that's interesting too. So as type 1, you are basically eating a healthy macronutrient, keeping your net carb load at a low or healthy, maybe like we teach, the HealthPointe program is when somebody first starts their 6-week cycle, it does drop down into, there's 3 days of what's called jumpstart, where we're going to clear out the glycogen in the liver. We're going to get that body into a fat burning state. So there is 3 days where you're definitely sub 50, probably sub 20, maybe close to 0 net carbs for 3 days. But then after that, you do increase the healthy carbs through vegetables and stuff like that. But generally it's for most people, depending upon man or woman, 6'7" or 5'1", they're going to be between 50 and 100 net grams. It's very sustainable. They can do that for life. If they go out to eat, they can find choices on the menu. It's not like they need to stay below 20 net carbs. So on your daily food intake as a type 1, so that you don't have to dose so heavily with insulin, what would you say your net carbs are generally?
I go by usually full on carbs, and I try to stay under 50 full carbs.
Wow.
But carbs aren't the only thing that affects, like right now, I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah, 225.
That's after a cup of coffee, black coffee.
Whoa.
Yeah,
wow.
We're talking everything from a hot shower, caffeine, everything affects the type 1, which there are some type 2s that are the same way. So yeah, there's a lot more to blood sugar than just food for some people.
True. And I'm curious that what you just pulled up on your app, as part of your insulin injection, are you like on a pump? Do you have a CGM, continuous glucose? Okay, so that's something, as we talked about this a number of times in this program, when we onboard clients, the low bad metaphor, low hanging fruit way to test your blood sugar is just to go to the CVS pharmacy and just get a $20 glucometer or hit Amazon and pick one up. But for people to get a CGM, we've got somebody on the call right now that her doctor said that until she hits an A1C of 9 or higher, he will not prescribe a CGM.
Just go talk to another doctor. You can actually talk to another doctor, or you can get like a NutriSense CGM if you just want to wear it temporarily. They're a little more expensive. I will say doctors will prescribe it, but sometimes you can't get insulin to pay for it. So when that happened to me, because I wasn't always on insulin, I went with a Libre 3 and it cost me $75 a month out of pocket for both of my sensors. And it's the only way that I'd still be misdiagnosed as a type 2, killing my insides.
So your Libre 3 only cost $75 a month, and that was for, so each Libre was good for 2 weeks, so that was for 2 discs?
Yep, it was. And it was, I think I used GoodRx, because my insurance wouldn't cover it, so I did use that. But yeah, they're not ridiculously expensive. And you also have the NutriSense, which I think those are, that's more of an off-label.
More expensive.
For it, so it's more expensive. But if you're interested in it, like the knowledge that you gain, you would be surprised. It's not always just about coming up and coming back down in 2 hours like people think. There are some foods that will throw you to 300, and just because your body can handle it doesn't mean you should be there. Even non-diabetics, you know what I mean? Not good.
So you're saying like you might just react strangely to blueberries or something like that, is what you're saying?
I haven't seen anybody do blueberries, but you'd be surprised on the watermelon, bananas, even the healthy things that you think that you're grabbing from like Chick-fil-A, the grilled chicken, skip the wrap it in lettuce, the whole 9 yards. They use sugar and things that you don't even know. Like they glaze their chicken. I found out the hard way because I'd be like, gosh, it was just chicken. You know what I mean? And then I find out that they glaze it with a sugary glaze. And the CGM taught me life. I'd be lost with.
That is so huge. I'm so glad that you talked about that, Jamie. And we'll wrap with this because this has been so good. And if I'm not careful, I'm going to keep you on here for another hour, and I'm just going to go on and on and on. But we've advocated for the CGMs routinely on here. We're up against the resistance that a lot of people run into with their primary care physician. We're up against the resistance of the cost of it. But what you just hit on is through GoodRx and other platforms where you can get this prescription, and for $75 a month, it's not no money, but it's not $200 a month, which is what I was paying. And I think I went through Levels, which is a great program, but it is more expensive. But the insights that you get, that's the key thing. I say, if you poke your finger in the morning, which I do, particularly right now, because I'm I measure my ketones, I measure my blood sugar. I just poke my finger and do it. But there's nothing like going throughout the day and seeing how that 20-minute walk affects it, how the hydration, some electrolytes, and in your case, maybe a what it seems to be like a healthy chicken lunch option, only to find out that the reading on your CGM just goes bonkers. And then you do some research and you find out that they've got some sort of concoction, honey-coated, sugary, whatever into it. And it was a hidden source that you would have been blind to, fueling your body day after day, thinking you're doing healthy choices, only to find out that it wasn't. And it was only the data that showed you that.
Yeah. And if it wasn't for the CGM, I would be taking, I usually average about 15 units of insulin a day. And that's a comfortable level, but that's manageable. If it wasn't for that CGM teaching me how to eat appropriately when I thought I was type 2, I'd be popping 15 units of insulin just to eat lunch. That's what most people do. So.
Wow. It's
nice to have that changer.
That is great. I think we just got a signal that we need to do a wrap. There's something that I don't know if you saw. Did you see the balloons fly up? Yeah, that's like a Zoom thing apparently. And I don't know if it'll do it with me if I go like this. It's just some some movement of your hand, it just it sends out balloons on the screen. That was so funny. Well, guys, we are definitely popping balloons on here. Thank you so much, Jamie. Thank you for everybody that contributed to this. Jamie, I'll follow up with you. We'll stay in touch and talk some more. But guys, unless there's anything else real quick from anybody, I think because I've allowed us to run further, I appreciate everybody's I guess patience with me on this. I just thought it was so valuable to hear from Jamie as it relates to her journey with blood sugar and LADA and so forth. But anything else real quick from anybody before we go?
I just wanted to say, Jamie mentioned about the digestive enzymes, and you might want to have a conversation about the probiotics and the fiber combination and see if that could alter any of that also, because they're just kind of a trilogy there.
Yep, I did a digestion with the probiotic, prebiotic. I got to be careful with the fiber, but you're right. All of those things, they play their part in the way that I digest.
It's so holistic, and I'm so bummed that we didn't get Hank on here in this segment, because he is Jamie, maybe on a future session. By the way, you're welcome to come back on these Saturdays anytime. But Hank is an amazing human being, 90s years old, super vibrant, and he talks about the microbiome routinely and his daily routine with the digestive enzyme and the probiotic and so forth. And he's just literally a walking, talking testimony. You know, the most powerful form of leadership is example, and he's just an incredible example. And all of us aspire to be like Hank, you know, when we're 90, 100, 120, or whatever the Lord allows us to be. But guys, thank you so much for everything today. This was a wonderful session. I'll get this out on YouTube as soon as I can. And thank you again. Till next time, next Saturday, same time, 8 o'clock to 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'll see you next time. Thanks again, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.